Natalie. Yes, you sure
Because
can.
I'm short, and if I hunched over, you guys would.
Swap mics with you, though?
Okay. Thank you, Andrew. Um, I'm Natalie Brain. I'm MAPP 2011, and we're talking about using positive psychology to foster meaningful learning in 165 college students last year at the University of Melbourne. So Ramsden is a higher education researcher, and he talks about how adults conceptualize learning in different ways. One way it's conceptualized is that learning is about the acquisition, the storage, and the recitation of knowledge. So he calls this surface learning, which can look like this in a classroom context. So the focus is on transmission from the share of knowledge, like you as coaches, teachers, to the recipient. And Virginia Woolf has a great quote that when people do things because other people do it, a great lethargy steals over the soul. A student from my class actually said that when a teacher is like that, you are boring me to death and I'm already dead, so you're boring me back to death. In contrast, she articulates when there's this deep experience of learning that there's this real perspective shift, there's this real reflection process, and is in the figure ground on the right, that what wasn't apparent before becomes apparent. And this is what Ramsden calls deep levels of learning. So the focus is really on the way that students understand, not transmission. And this student shows this as that was totally wicked, this feeling of like deep engagement that's not just like acquiring knowledge, but really like a deep sort of alive reflective process. So two pathways articulated here, sort of the fear, boredom, superficial pathway gives rise to fight, flight, or freeze, so cramming, giving up, doing nothing to surface learning, and then the well-being is a way to deep learning. So Ramsden has 6 principles that foster deep learning, and they actually map to PERMA. So for example, learning should not be a drudgery. It should be interesting, pleasurable, inspiring, and that's the P, and on down the line. So we embedded the PERMA pathways to foster deep learning in 2 undergraduate courses last year that were launched with more than 160 students. This is the first cohort with just under 100 in the lecture hall. So how to embed positive emotion? We designed the Good Karma community, which was really leveraging the interconnectedness of well-being between the students in the class and then their broader community, their tutorials, etc. So for example, we did a free hugs campaign on campus to really bring theory to life. We embedded engagement by designing, there is a place for exams, but that last 5 minutes of that push out of knowledge we sought to avoid, and rather did 2 deeply reflective essays where students really engaged and got a ton of feedback, wrote 50 pages of feedback on the second paper of the last class. We embedded relationships by just how knowledge was shared and delivered. This was one of the tutorial classrooms with more than 30 students. I would always, we would always move the tables together, and I would sit at their level and sit with them. They went out and fostered meaning beyond themselves by doing a gratitude interview day, where they asked other students on campus what they're grateful for to learn from each other and in the broader community to embed meaning. And then finally, embedding accomplishment. Some might perceive that positive psychology would be a fluffy class at university, when in fact these are the scores across the 30 plus per person cohorts across the top on all the knowledge bases. And the 2 courses got, for example, the second one got the highest on 9 out of 10 of the criteria for student reports across all the undergraduate courses in the faculty. So really intellectually rigorous. And then finally, from a student perspective, this is a note where she's saying this really changed the outlook, my outlook on the world. It's given me new perspective. It's restored my faith in the academic community, etc. And also I want to just offer that it also was a deep learning experience for me. So this is from that student encouraging me to do more of what makes me happy. So it's sort of a learning journey together, I would say, for meaningful learning to occur. And likewise, another student, I use a lot of Lord of the Rings analogies to teach. And so a student gave me Not All Those Who Wander Are Lost, knowing my background, to really reinforce that she sees me and my path as well. And then another student gave me this Hope Stone again. So this sort of deep learning, the conditions are really, it's a mutual deep learning experience and a learning journey together. So the way I think about this in summary is of how many of you have heard of remember the Velveteen Rabbit? So the Velveteen Rabbit story, Sawhorse says to the Velveteen Rabbit, you know, when you become real, you might not look so pretty anymore, you might get scruffy along the way, but once you're real, you're always real, and then the scruffiness doesn't matter. And I would like to offer that that deep learning is really about this authentic relationship that the people that are involved become more real. And Rita Pearson's TED Talk really sort of captures this to me. She talks about how in teaching that people, or anyone who's conveying knowledge, don't talk enough about the value of human connection. And she quotes someone as saying that for any significant learning, there has to be a significant human relationship. And in summary, I would say that positive psychology really can create those principles for deep learning, and especially the R, that really creates that real personal human level connection that gives rise to real deep learning. That's it.
Thank you, Natalie. Okay, questions. Questions for Natalie. Yeah, Jess. As more and more learning moves virtually and online, how do you bring the human connection to it?
I've really thought a lot about this because for that sort of transformative relationship, we're energy beings, right? I mean, we're just like, so I think that we use some online tools to really augment this kind of deep connection. So we had a positive Facebook, if you will, where they would post things and identify the perma category where things inspired, you know, where that particular video fit for them. So we did a lot of additional online tools, but from my perspective, to really have that engagement, that energy exchange, it's like it's very much a powerful in-person. I mean, most powerful learning happened, in my opinion, you know, the lecture hall was fine, and I would try to make that as interactive as possible. But when I was sitting at group level with them in those 30-person tutorials, we were really engaged in dialogue, and I was really hesitant to have any hierarchy in that. People just come alive. They see themselves as being very active in their own teachers, and that's what I think deep learning is really about. Yeah.
Other questions? Thank you.
Cool. Thank
so
you.
much.